Up to Worlds Cooldown, presented by State Farm, your one-stop wrap-up for all things Worlds, and we have come to the conclusion of our second World semi-final. So that means only one series left to go in this World Championship. But to break down the happenings of today, I've got Azale, Raz, and Lyric joining me. Top Esports, Suning, the regional matchup. I'm coming to you first, Lyric. General impressions of the series, as this was the 1 and 3 seed from the LPL.
Honestly, I'm just completely blown away. A lot of people might not know this, but Suning actually finished 11th place in spring. So going from 11th to a world finalist in only a few months, great adaptation, great individual play. I'm honestly just blown away.
I mean, and Raz, let's talk about the journey that Suning has already had to take, right? We talk about them overcoming JD Gaming now into Top Esports, so having to overcome some of those barriers that, again, regionally, I think expectations were they wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, because, I mean, I think the caster said it really well in terms of just the team development, and Lyric could attest to this, the development that the team had, not even just like talking about how they performed during spring split, but in summer split, I think they had something like an 8-series win streak. Like something bizarre as that, but that was like near the end of their split when they were really kind of getting it down pack. And just hearing that the rumors behind the scenes were that they were scrim gods, or at least they were doing real well in scrims, but then being able to get that on stage, we're finally getting to see that. And then in group stage, they really showed the world like a spark that what they were capable of doing when they ended up taking first seed over G2. And people were really starting to talk about, and I was really starting to wonder, like, what would happen if they were to go up against their regional opponents. I still thought JD and Top Esports would beat them, but I was proven flatly wrong, and that development came through.
I mean, I think that the development of this team really is the story. And to me, one of the biggest indicators of this is not just the top lane side. That is a big story there, because I do think that in the LPL, Bin did struggle against the truly elite top laners, against the Zooms and the Shy and players like that. Sometimes they would create advantages, but they couldn't close it out. But now in Worlds, we're seeing, the emergence of Huangfeng, who had been kind of, I think, like a footnote in a lot of, people talking about and summarizing Suning coming into Worlds. He had been good, and most people talk about him like, oh yeah, he's a good team fighter, right? And that's kind of where their discussion about Huangfeng would end. But he has just emerged as this true insane carry threat throughout the quarterfinals, throughout the semifinals. He has been going up against some of the best ADs in the world and smacking them down. And I think that takes a lot of the pressure off of Bin to, sometimes he doesn't have to be in this position where he's over-forcing and trying to close out games for himself. And we have Angel in the final game here absolutely dominating. Like it is truly a team effort, and it is them, overcoming some of the barriers that I think were set for themselves in the LPL.
The growth continued from spring to summer and even through to the World Championship, and it continues to even in the semifinal. We're going to break down each of the games as they happened over the coming minutes. But before we do that, I thought it would be nice to take a look at how the series concluded. After Top Esports tried their hardest to keep Suning out of their base, Suning secured their drive to victory by Dragon. Brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. Raz, take it away.
Like, what part do you want to break down? Because at the very end, I loved how Top Esports were fighters at the very end of it. Finding an opportunity to get a pick on Suning when they were on Dragon, but still Suning being able to outplay, the Jax being a part of the play. Orianna had to follow late because she was always afraid of Jax just staying there and ending the game on the split push. So it was just an insane game ending that lasted for about a solid 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, this was pretty crazy, but man, Knight's TP was so late, and then when he arrives, he goes for the blind flash sombrero, the self-ultimate over the wall. That whiffs too, and that is one of those fights that you are going to run through in your head every day for the next year. Yep. Maybe every day until you get to the World Finals and actually have a chance to surpass what you've done, because Knight has been so incredible. And people think of him as this brand new guy, but this is a time MVP winner in the LPL. He was the MVP last year in summer. He's the MVP this year in summer. He has been competing at the absolute elite level in the LPL for a long time, and he has been considered better than Angel for so long. And in this pivotal final game, Angel heavily outplayed him, and in the pivotal fight, he's late to arrive. He misses all his abilities, and the series ends, right? That is something that I think is absolutely heartbreaking for a player of that caliber.
Yeah, and I think Knight just had a underwhelming tournament overall, right? It wasn't bad. He had some good moments, but it wasn't that Knight that we saw in LPL that we were expecting. Another thing with that last fight was just the fact that Huanfeng was left untouched the whole time, throwing out those Ezreal Qs over the wall, hitting the ultimate. And I mean, you can't just leave Huanfeng to his own devices because he's shown this tournament he can just, step up when the time is right.
Yeah, I just do want to say, because this is what, players can fall into this trap of thinking about that one moment and not really taking a step back and thinking about the series as a whole. Because that entire series, that even the beginning portion of the game, yes, that is true. There were a lot of problems that got them to that point to begin with, right?
Yep.
And I do want to focus on the team aspect of it, because that it was pretty much they just got outplayed multiple times, multiple points in the series. And I thought there were really 2 players that shined from Suning that I really enjoyed watching there, and it was SOFM and Huanfeng. I know we spoke about Huanfeng already. SOFM just had the best. Karsa, who I think didn't really have that well of a series. Same could be said for Jackie as well, but I thought that SOFM came in and really solidified him as king. I thought that it was great that he was able to get player of the game, because regardless of whether he's playing a carried threat or a tank like J4, it was insane to watch him play.
I mean, I agree with you completely. A game is not one play, but I just know from my entire pro gaming career, I literally have tournaments from over 10 years ago where I still remember one specific moment in a game that we lost or a series that we lost, and still over a decade later, I'm still like, damn it, why did I do this? What am I doing? And it's one of those things. Oh, my cat just jumped when I clapped my hand.
I thought that was your table slap. I was like, my goodness, there was some force behind that.
He's like,
my
damn it!
My cat just jumped. But it's one of those things, man, where it just sticks with you. And even though you logically know there's all these it's a whole decision tree, right? It's everything that led up to that thing. It's just those are the moments that really do stick with you and resonate with you, I think, as a pro, where you just are like, I had the opportunity to do something here and I failed.
100%. I mean, and you would, and in some senses, you would expect nothing less from a pro, right? Because all of these guys are playing at the highest level, so they do hold themselves to the highest standards. And I'm sure that final fight will be replayed multiple times, even though, as you say, Raz, it was a 4-game series. There were many opportunities throughout all of the games here for both teams to take it. And so we'll dive straight into game number 1, the first of which Suning picked up.
This one was interesting because, if I remember correctly, Top Esports had a pretty huge advantage of this game where they were playing towards bot side pretty heavily. And actually, Suning was messing up because they tried for a solo dive bot and failed in that respect. We're trying to get a place through Wukong and then even failed because when they were trying to crash the wave, Jace TP top side and evened it out. So Top had a pretty large advantage for a good portion of this game.
I feel like a big thing for me was when I was looking at a lot of their Drake setups going into this game, they were actually doing pretty all right. Their vision control as well, they were denying vision. And a lot of the times that Bin was on the flank, they actually knew. They had complete vision. They could have even played a bit more patiently. But, I mean, TS aren't known for playing patient, and it looked like it was almost always execution failures that led to TS kind of losing control of this one.
Yeah, I agree completely. I was tweeting about that during this first game. I was very frustrated by the way they actually performed around those dragons, especially the second one, to me, was very egregious, where they actually have, 369 fighting Bin over the wall, and Bin actually used the first charge of the Wukong ultimate. So there's only a handful of seconds you have to wait until he can't actually do it anymore, and then you can fight. They just had to play it slow. But at that exact moment, when they see this happening and he pops his Wukong ult, Jackie flashes forward in range of Bin, and Bin just flashes over the wall, uses a second charge on Jackie, and they get the easy kill on Jhin, and that decided the game. That was the dragon fight, that was the Baron, and I do think that Top really lacked patience at critical moments in this, and I think those 2 dragon fights exemplified it.
Raz?
In this series, they lacked a lot of patience. More often, I would say, for Jackie Love, because there was even a dragon fight that I was watching. It wasn't in game 2, but for me, I was watching and I was literally just saying, just don't E over the wall. Just base. Yeah, exactly. I was like, I know. In through it just to see if he can get a kill. Obviously, the guy has flash. He flashes away, and then Jackie Love dies. And I'm like, there are some points in the game where it's maybe you can get that kill. But really, you should always take, in those moments, the guarantee advantage, keep it, and try and deny. Denial is probably the biggest point when you have an advantage that is so key. But then, of course, you give the opportunity to the enemy team to come back. And so I felt like I was pretty disappointed in JackeyLove in particular, but actually was really, really impressed with how Suning was able to play when they finally got advantages themselves.
Yeah, well, let's talk about where some of those advantages maybe came from, because while we will get to that game too, and we will get to some more of that impatience maybe coming out of top esports, I want to focus in on the top lane matchup. It was a big discussion coming into the day. 369 was everyone's focus, one of the main focuses alongside Nuguri coming into the tournament, but Bin has quietly or not so quietly in recent weeks here been making a name for himself on the world stage, and you can see there, of course, with jungle proximity, a lot of help coming out of SOFM in order to get that top lane rolling.
And that's what I wanted to highlight here. That was a lot of jungle pressure that we were getting towards the top side to get the Wukong ahead, and it was not as successful as like they would have wanted it to be before the dragon fights happened. Because you have 3 kills, an insane gold advantage towards the Jhin, your bot side is getting incredibly ahead. How does the Wukong actually get back into this game without having that team fight, right? You need to have that team fight set up, and a lot of the times with your bot lane being able to be freed, top esports bot lane that is, they have the vision set up that will be free from, Yu Yanjia being able to do just that. And then, of course, like with how Jace played out that laning phase with almost no jungle pressure. I thought he played well. I actually thought he was getting a lot of damage off, and he had a few kills off the mistake that Bin was making. So in terms of like what were you actually getting off of your investment, I thought top for the first however minutes before the Drake fights ended up happening was much happier.
A stronger start, but the composure was lacking in the later moments of the game. Today's State Farm assist of the day, though, goes to Karsa on Lee Sin, where he turned kicks into kills for his team. Azael?
Yeah, Karsa is such a clean Lee Sin player. I don't think that he had his best series, but in this game, you saw the playmaking that he had. You saw the ability to make things happen for this team, and they do eventually chase down, assisting not only with the kick, but with the shockwave delivery there from Knight and getting that big kill onto Hong Kong.
Raz, I would give one of my kidneys to be able to make a play like that once in my life. Like legit, I would just give it away. Let me do that once.
This is one of those moments where you just want the laws of equivalent exchange to exist. Maybe the cost would be too high, but I want Lee Sin mechanics. Give that to me. Because like even in that same game, the Warthog kick that he had on Orianna to get that pick, they won that game off of like multiple insane performances off of Karsa. So that was insane. Give him Lee Sin every game if he's going to perform like that.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think that puts even more of a spotlight on the performance that SOFM was able to put up today as, again, that Oppo player of this series in handling Karsa. But rolling ahead to Game 2, I want to come back to you, Lyr, because this was the one game that Top was able to pick up in the 3-1 series. How did you feel about their approach, and what was different in allowing them to secure this victory as opposed to in the other games?
It's actually pretty strange because when we started this game, I wasn't feeling too hot on what TS was doing. We saw that early play come out around bot where they were trying to get the pick on SOFM. I don't understand how they thought they'd have the damage there between Ezreal, Lee Sin, and Leona. And we saw that Suning were actually getting a bunch of advantages. They had a pretty good scaling comp, a great front-to-back team fight with the Ornn in there. And then we have the fight that kind of blew Raz's mind a little bit, but the great thing was TS started off in such a good way. They found a nice pick coming out from the likes of Yu Yanjia and a great barrel coming out from Bin. And it was this, the soul point curse that we saw start going on with this series.
Yeah, and even though I kind of harped on JackeyLove and his moment in this game, for me, Suning had the far more egregious moments. They had a composition that honestly should just, if they have an advantage, if they have the goal lead, they should just pummel Suning. Suning won't be able to really do much in open team fights against them. My biggest issue were with how many times they ended up picking solo fights. There were instances where I was pretty upset with like how SOFM, after Drake, he would like try for an easy kill on Orianna and then gets picked off, and it happened to him again around the red buff area. There were multiple moments where I felt like if Suning doesn't go as Rambo as they did and had slowed the game down, this would have been their game.
Yeah, I mean, they were one dragon from Ocean Soul with an Ornn front-to-back teamfight comp, right? Like, They were always overextending for these picks. They're looking for like long range Ornn ultis right before Dragon is spawning and things like this. Like all they really had to do was actually be the first to play and set up around it. But I think this series was so much about, less that it was like flawless games and more about capitalizing on your opponent's mistakes. Because when the teams are actually playing at a really high pace, when they're playing very fast League of Legends, very aggressive League of Legends, they're just going to be mistakes. And oftentimes the team that comes out on top is the one that capitalizes better on it. And I think this game, was a very representative of that, where Top was able to punish, the misuse of positioning, the misuse of cooldowns that was actually coming out of Suning despite a comp disadvantage.
Yeah, one thing I really loved about, just a small thing that I really loved about it, it was a setup towards the soul, and us like Sword Art just literally couldn't get a base off. He wanted to base late, but then Karsa saw him on map and then just kept canceling him out. So the time he actually got his base off, like Top Esports had full control of Dragon, and it would be really difficult for Suning to ever get control back. I love that part of the game.
Yeah, and that's why I think the last thing to hit right, since this is TS's only win, is we saw a lot of great, even mechanical plays coming out around that point where Jackie loves, Ezreal Qs, the Karsa Sonic waves, like I highlighted with 369 hitting that amazing barrel, which pretty much ended up chunking them out so they can get that dragon. It's like TS showed in this game that they definitely still could compete in the series. And I feel like this was a good game overall from most of them individually. I just feel like the team play wasn't there early on. And as Azale highlighted, the comp exactly wasn't the greatest.
100%. Even though it was Top Esports that takes game 2, it was Suning's SOFM who proved that every second counts as a perfectly timed Kindred ult helped turn the tides of a fight. Made possible, of course, by the Cisco network.
Yeah, and so, you're doing Dragon. All is good in the world. A lot of damage across the Orianna ultimate, just being able to nail it. And then the Kindred ultimate to keep yourself alive. This is the moment I was talking about! This made me mad!
Oh, God.
Take Dragon and go back to base!
We get it every second counts, and we get a Raz is pissed off. I love it. All in the same replay.
Goodness! I was like, I think this is that moment. Hell yes, it's that moment.
Jackie Love goes from the best AD in the world to the worst AD in the world with one press of an arcane shift.
What actually blows my mind about this is that it seemed like after this team lost to V5 in LPL, Jackie Love, he learned. He turned it off. He stopped going for these type of plays. And I don't know what happened coming into Worlds after groups where he looked like by far the best AD carry. Against Fnatic in this series, man, every time he gets on Ezreal or any champion, even the Ashe and later on in the series, he always was just somewhere he shouldn't be, always walking too far forward.
I can tell you what's happening, man. He's picturing Jackie Love, Smurfs at Worlds, montage.
Yeah, I was having that thought. I was like, I wonder if it is that feeling that he needs to do just a bit more to get them over the hump, right? We just kind of talked about how, especially in this series and when we watch these LPL teams play, there are going to be mistakes, but that's because they're forcing their opponents to interact at all points in the game. And so I can imagine an individual feeling the weight on his shoulders and saying, okay, I need to make the play. I see those low health bars. I could pop off and have the montage, get the MVP, and push us into that World Final best of 5.
And that's the thing, right? Because he's had that happen before. The highlight moment in his career on Invictus Gaming was that flash forward. Something like that where, if you hold those feelings and you're like, I can win a game with this. I can put us into a finals with a play like this. Then yeah, I agree. Those kind of moments really, it feels like you're on that adrenaline. Only problem is it's just a little bit too much.
Well, and it's just disappointing because, like Lyric said, it felt like he moved past it. And I'm not even just thinking about the V5 game and post that in the LPL this year. I'm actually thinking back to when he won with IG, the World Championship that year. In spring, they lost in playoffs with him this Caitlyn play that is seared into my brain, where he's flashing past the tier 2 tower to try to hit a Piltover Peacemaker, misses it, and ints from full to try to kill this one play that was not even worth going for, even if it worked, and it didn't, and they lose the game off of it, and they lose the series off of it. And to me, that was so indicative of Jackie Love at that time in his career, in spring of that year before he won the World Championship. And then it was wow, look at him in summer. He's really curbed that edge, and he's playing so well. He's riding that line so well. And now he's the world champion, and he's never going back. And here we are, and it feels like he's kind of regressed a bit because you need to have trust in your teammates. It's not as though he's playing with a bunch of schlubs. He's playing with friggin' Knight and 369, and like he's surrounded by these incredible players. And I think at times you have to curb that aggression a little bit because it's risk versus reward, and it's just having faith in your teammates to do their job and play to your win conditions.
Yep, today it wasn't there. Today he felt like he needed to do a bit too much. Rolling ahead to game number 3, another one that Suning was able to pick up. Let's start taking a look at some of the highlights and the way that this one broke down.
There's actually one thing I really want to touch on with this game that was really critical was we saw the Renekton versus Jax in the top side, and Jax actually has lane prio for the first 3 waves, but we saw 369 going for these heavy trades, and I'm guessing it was a plan by TS because we saw Karsa go and invade the red buff, and they tried to plan this level 2 gank top, but guess what? Bin respected the gank. It allowed SOFM to come in and invade the enemy jungle, and it led to that disastrous top 2v2 where Suning pick up 2 kills, and the game looks hard after that.
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly really disappointed by the pathing here from Karsa. Like, I just didn't really think it made that much sense to go his own red to enemy red. If you want to do a red invade, why not just start there level 1 and actually just try to steal the red away with topside prio, you know, early from the Renekton if he's going to be playing aggressive. Because he did this path and he did it so late, and then he did it so it felt like almost inefficiently that, you know, he's on his Grump, and Shen is arriving at level 3. He's a full level up. He doesn't even have a smite. He loses that, and then they have this dive that basically just decides the entire game off of it, because off of that, not only did he put himself way behind, he pretty much entirely ruined 369's game, right? Because now you're way down on a Jax in the early game, and you're heavily outscaled by him in the 1v1. So 369 was pretty much screwed right from the get-go in this one.
Yeah, Raz, River Shen got off to the races basically because of that play, and then of course a top lane snowballed as well, to Azael's point.
Yeah, the fact that all of this happened at the exact same time as your Caitlyn died twice really early on for, you know,
Losing the 2v2 straight up.
losing the 2v2, and also just off of not respecting Leona and Fog when she comes back into lane. Like, these kind of things are just insane to see. But yeah, that one was wild. But you're right, the game is ruined off of what is your Lee Sin pathing. Because if you're Lee Sin, you're going into enemy red, and you're just trying, like, I can see it if you're trying to push Shen off topside, using your mid laner to do that, or at least their prior to do that. Like, anything to make it so, you know, you don't lose. The time that you lost going in for an invade and then going back into your own camps isn't that large of an issue. But yeah, Shen just said, "What's up?" I'm a level above you, buddy. And then and one thing that, like, Renekton versus Jax, yeah, Jax will lose out in the early portion of the game, but like, he just literally had a 1 lane off of that. The lost wave that preceded it, it was insane.
Yeah, I think I'm coming to you with this lyric. I think 2 things. One, I don't think it's surprising that SOFM had such a great effect on the game. We definitely, when looking at Suning, target him as one of the players that will pilot the team one way or the other to a win or a loss. But also, again, the way that the top lane came into it. I want to talk about that first, but then I think for me, the surprise is the bot lane of Suning this entire tournament, and the fact that on the flip side, while SOFM is doing this work, building these statistics on the top side, the bot lane is completely self-sufficient.
Yeah, and this is what Suning have been great at all split long, is, again, leaving Huanfeng and Sword Art to their own devices. And we saw this in the semifinal, that didn't work out, right? Huanfeng and Sword Art got absolutely dismantled by Jackie Love, but that didn't happen this time. We saw that Jackie Love and Yu Yanja weren't exactly on the same page. Jackie Love kept coming to lane solo, like Raz said, allowing for that Leona play. And it was just great to see that Huanfeng and Sword Art were ready, were like cognizant of how Jackie Love was going to be playing so aggressively this time and be able to punish these plays, because we saw Huanfeng's damage that game. It was absolutely insane. And again, it's great to see him step up, but also Sword Art take on this leadership role and be an active playmaker for this squad.
Yeah, and Raz, I think for me, this just highlights again how much expectation can shift when you get to the day. A single piece performs differently than the way you expect. If you expect that bot lane to go top side, go to top every single game, and in fact, now Suning is the overperforming or outperforming bot lane, it warps the entire series.
Yeah, and I just want to the stat that hit me coming into this series is the fact that Huanfeng on Sword Art get the negative jungle proximity difference. Like, they get the least amount of jungle pressure than any AD or like bot lane, if I remember correctly, in the tournament. Like, at least like up until this point of the tournament. It's insane to see that. Bin gets a lot of the pressure, for sure. Angel's naturally going to be they're gonna be naturally playing through 2v2.
SOM
so,
Scruggs get a lot of the pressure.
There we go. SOFM, if he wants that, he's gonna get it.
Proximity with the Krugs, very high.
Very
high. And they are able to just perform bot lane to an insane degree without the jungle pressure, which I enjoy to see. Like, they're great weak side, and it seems like I just want to see them become the strong side. I want to see them get the pressure because they're performing so well in their 2v2 consistently that it's insane, like, how many tools Suning have.
Without a doubt. Now, MasterCard is still tracking the CS champions here at Worlds 2020. G2's Wonder continues to hold his place on top of the table, but Suning Shuangfeng was able to crack the leaderboard and take second place with one of his games today at 430.
You're telling me G2's in the finals? Is that what I'm hearing?
They're atop of something, my friend.
There we go. We got them.
I mean, I'm curious to know whether or not anyone thinks that G2's or G2 Wonder's CS will be broken here, even in our finals, because I think the way that the games are trending, I'm not so certain anything's going to extend to the distance that allows someone to get this, Azael.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be broken. I think that, you know, as you said, it feels like the pace of the games are accelerating quite a lot, and it doesn't feel like Suning is the kind of team to just play like a slow, steady game against Damwon and have one of those 40, 50-minute games where you have, you know, these 440 CS marks broken.
Yeah, I mean, Lyric, we just had a 7-dragon 4th game, and yet the CS lead wasn't broken. So I think that's indicative of the fact that the teams still in the tournament prefer fighting a little bit more than CSing.
It actually makes me kind of interested, though, right? Because when we were having LPL versus LPL, I knew there would be more fighting. Suning against Damwon, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a bit slower than today. But I mean, man, we're not hitting Wonder's numbers. We're not hitting those.
No.
Yeah, those numbers aren't getting hit.
Okay, all right, there you have it.
Yeah, I was about to say the only thing that I want to put out there is that when Damwon gets an advantage, they're holding on to it. You're gonna lose that fight, and it's the game's over. So like, it's not going to those late games.
We're gonna preview that series as well as talk about Game 4 in just a moment. But MasterCard will be rewarding viewers with drops when the minion champion is dethroned. So you're definitely rooting for it if you want some drops. Be sure to keep watching at watch.lolesports.com for a chance at some free loot. On the other side of the break, we'll cover the final, where we've got some the final exciting game of this series and send off Top Esports and look ahead at next week's final. As we go, we'll hear from one of MasterCard's fans of the decade, Stefan from Guangzhou. Special thanks to all the fans out there who keep the esports stream alive.
I started playing League of Legends since 2010 when I studied abroad. I met lots of friends on this game from all over the world. We play and watch the championship together. And at the end, I just want to say thank you to all the LPL players. You guys are such a legend. And legends never die. LPL, 加油!
Welcome back to Worlds Cooldown, presented by State Farm, where we're putting a capper on our semifinals by taking a look at that fourth and final game. And it was an epic one, to say the least. Suning taking it in solid fashion with a wild team fight to end it all. But let's take a look straight from the start here. Azale, we were kind of losing our minds over this play.
I mean, this is honestly a pretty insane game, and it started very, very early. And especially after Suning had been kind of dominating, you're like 2 minutes in the game, you're like, oh, it's actually over. Suning just won. You know, top or behind again. What is happening?
And yet, Raz, there was the comeback, right? Again, that initial play with 3 early kills going over to Suning felt pretty doomed, and yet Top found a way to fight their way back into it, even in some cases, arguably a winning position that Suning then had to recover from.
This is just a really scrappy game. And I love to see it, especially when Top knows that they need to do whatever they can to bring the game back. And so, like, a lot of these scrappy team fights that came out, Karsa finding a way through the back line, like something like this, you need a certain level of creativity. My only issue, one person was left untouched that was finding his way back in these fights. Angel was a beast. Angel is insane on Akali.
Yep, and I wanted to add, right, the thing that sucks for TS about Raz saying this was a scrappy game is when you have champions like Akali, Jackson, Jarvan, they'd much prefer a scrappy game over that, you know, controlled 5v5. So Suning, you know, we're in a great position for this. And I want to touch a little bit on Angel, because if people only followed LPL recently or in summer, they think, okay, this guy only plays control mages. Back in spring and in solo queue, I think for his whole career, he's been all about assassins. He plays Kassadin, he loves playing Talon. Like, this guy can do it all, and this is his comfort zone, so it was so nice to see.
Yeah, like, following his career, he's just a great team fighter. Like, he does have a larger champion pool than people give him credit for. I think it's very fair to believe that Knight would destroy him this series. Like, that's what I expected, because I think Knight is just on a different caliber talent. But Angel has different tools, and the fact that they're now, just from watching this game, more flexible, that they don't need to necessarily give it all to SOFM. SOFM is willing to then play towards his lanes, and you know what? Angel's paying it back. It's amazing to see.
I mean, he 100% popped off in that series. That one death came very late into the game, because I believe he was 8-0, you know.
Yeah, that was the final fight.
Exactly.
Oh my God, someone scratch it out. Scratch out that one death. I don't want to see it.
He doesn't deserve that death.
It's okay. One death doesn't ruin your KDA. It's the second one.
That's a good point.
That's true.
So he's fine. It's still chalk that one up as a W. He's going to the World Finals and heavily outperformed Knight in that final game. And I do think that, you know, this is one of those situations where it's like such a different perspective when you're looking at this series compared to when they played in playoffs, where it was always Top who actually, you know, picked for counterpick in the top lane, played heavily towards top lane, got advantages there, utilizing Jax, utilizing Quinn. And I thought we were going to see a bit more of rinse and repeat of that, of Karsa actually, you know, playing for 369, getting him advantages over Bin, and just trying to allow, you know, Jackie Love to be down there doing his thing in the bot lane, very similarly to how they did in the LPL. And it was not that at all, right? We saw them actually, for the most part, it was 369 blind picking and getting counterpicked, and it was, you know, the pressure coming from SOFM. And I feel like I'm kind of surprised that Top didn't expect that, because that is pretty much always how Suning plays. They always go towards top lane. They, you know, Bin is always going to be playing these aggressive carry styles. He almost never plays a tank. Yes, he played Ornn once in the series, but it was like the first time in the last 38 games or something like that he played a tank. SOFM is going to power farm and gank top. Like, you know what they're going to do, and Top dismantled it in playoffs, and for whatever reason just didn't attack it in the same way here at Worlds.
And I think that the one thing that I always enjoy in picking apart team kills, like if it's LCK, but more often LPL, because they can be a lot more bloody, is the idea of overthinking, like that regional familiarity that comes into it, and then just kind of like changing your strategy coming into a series. Because I definitely saw something to that nature. And I also saw a lot of overthinking from Karsa's early pathing in like 2 games, actually, that made it so these games they felt unreachable right from the get-go. So yeah, like immediately what comes to mind is like Royal Club going through OMG and EDG, like these, like that back in the day. That's now we're reliving that. It's coming through. But for me, there is a great degree for Suning that they developed to get to this point. So I give them a lot of credit.
I mean, I think it also highlights the importance of remembering that the world stage is different than the regional stage, in part due because of the time that elapses, right? The fact that you're interacting with these different regions and you're being exposed to new play styles and strategies. And so often we see teams that are, discounted coming into the World's tournament, level up over the course of it and end up throwing somebody, for a loop in some best-of-5 series. But with this, Lyric, I think it's important for us to talk about Top Esports and their thank you, and their departure from the tournament. You heard Frost say it. There is this hyper bittersweet element as Karsa exits and Sword Art moves on to the finals, as well as just from a whole team perspective, Top, the #1 seed from the LPL, just missing the mark.
I want to hit that Karsa point for a bit because I actually tweeted it out today that Karsa's resume is actually probably the best resume of any jungler ever. He has 7 domestic titles, MSC, MSI, IEM, Rift Rivals, Demacia Cup. The only thing this guy was missing was a world championship. And on TS as a whole, I do feel like you have to be disappointed in the results despite them being a semifinalist because, again, this team was supposed to be the best team in the world, at very least, top 2 with Damwon. And the fact that they look shaky today, they look shaky against Fnatic, we didn't see the highs they showed us in LPL, I think it is a bit of a sour note for TS despite being a top 4 team in the world.
Yeah, I feel for Karsa there because it's not the first time, as you had mentioned, RNG had those same aspirations where they were seen as the world's favorite because they were on that golden road. MSI, multiple titles at that point, even a gold medal. Even a gold medal at Asian Games. And then they come to the event, and it all goes downhill. And now, I wouldn't say he's reliving it because he went to the semifinals and he was just so close to being able to nail, get that ticket to Worlds. But you saw the emotion at the end of the series. I do hope that he stands right back up, gets back on it because he's an insane performer. And he always delivers like Lyric says. The man does it. He just needs to do it at Worlds.
Well, in reference to that forever friendship, before we do look ahead at the finals, let's hear from Laure, who caught up with Sword Art to talk about securing a spot in the World Finals.
And thank you very much, Dash. Laure, here the great story continues for Suning, who reached for the first time the World's Finals, and I have Sword Art with me to talk about this victory. First off, congratulations on reaching your first ever finals as a pro player. I guess this must have been an extra special series for you, given the Flash Wolves reunion with Karsa here. So tell me, how did it impact the series for you?
那首先恭喜你们获得本场比赛的胜利，也是你第一次作为职业选手进入到了世界赛的决赛舞台，而且这也是比较特殊的一场比赛，因为你也是和卡萨作为闪电狼的老队友重逢在了半决赛，所以说它会不会让这场半决赛对决变得格外的特别呢？或者有些影响？
就跟卡萨打的话，可能特别想赢他吧，因为以前跟他打，其实我都是输多，对，然后就是也努力了很久嘛，然后这次总算赢下来这样。
So play against Casa, I really desire to win because for our head-to-head record, I'm the one that I always get the lose. So this time I also put a lot of effort in. So I really want to grab this win.
I can imagine it was a very personal victory. But talking about that last game, you were ahead, but it feels like it took you guys a long time to finish the game. How do you explain that?
那我们再说一下本场比赛的最后一局对决，好像你们在前面是有一些优势，但好像也拖了很久才最后拿到了胜利。那能问一下当时怎么样的情况吗？
我觉得最主要是因为 TS 他们的整体配合也更好吧，所以我们可能中间也没有办法那么轻松的拿下来这样子。
I think the main reason is Top Esports, it really have a very good team synergy, so it's kind of hard for us to just grab the win.
And you were the better team in the end. Now, when we talk about Suning and the improvements over the year, you started in not a very good position in the LPL, and now you look stronger than ever. What is the biggest improvement for Suning, and how do you explain your success at Worlds?
那就是说到苏宁这一年的成长，好像你们刚开始在 LPL 没有非常的强，但现在你们感觉是比所有的人都强。那你觉得是怎么样会让你们得到这样多的一个成长
呢？我觉得就是刚好我们5个人是非常合适的吧，就是有些比较有经验啊，然后有些操作都很好，而且最主要是大家都非常的努力，所以我们才能走到今天。
I think we are the suitable 5 persons and we just met each other. And some of us are very experienced and some of us are very good at mechanics. So I think that's the reason for us to make these improvements. And also all of us were really working very hard. I think that's why.
It's the perfect mix. Then now focusing on you, after so many years, you finally reach a Worlds Finals. How proud do you feel right now? And give me a few words about Damwon for the finals.
那你现在也是终于进入到了一个世界的总决赛，而且是就决赛的舞台。那你对自己有多么样的一个骄傲的感觉？而且最后能不能稍微简短的评价一下 DWG 呢？
我记得是今天早上吧，然后我看到那个 TSN 的比尔森退役了嘛，对，然后我就感觉更多是我非常想要现在就证明我自己，因为我也打了非常的久嘛，所以我觉得就是这个机会来临了，我一定不会把它放过这样子。然后跟 DWG 打的话，因为平常跟 Ghost 交流的也蛮多的，对，所以我觉得比赛应该会挺精彩的，至少不会是3-0这样子。
And I think this morning I have read the news that and TSM's mid laner, Beerson, he just got retired. So I'm very touching because I played League of Legends so many years and this finally I got the opportunity to stand on the final stage. So I just don't want to miss this opportunity. And in terms of the Damwon Gaming, I think I'm quite familiar with the Ghost and I have lots of communications with him. I believe it will be a very exciting series and it may not end with a 3-0 scoreline.
Oh, we'll see about that next week, but first, thank you very much for the interview. And yeah, Beerson is something that shocked all of us, I feel, so I'm glad you get the opportunity to reach the Worlds Finals. Sword Art, thank you very much. And Wendy, thank you so much for the translation, as always. And that's all for me on this side of the ocean. So back to you, Dash. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. Hitting me right in the feels there, Azale. Did not expect the Bjergsen call out, but I think that idea of legacy, the idea of accomplishment and what you want to achieve as a pro player at the forefront of his mind here as he reaches that next level, stepping onto the world final stage.
I mean, you just know you want to make the most of it. Like someone like Sword Art who has been around for so long and who has been good for so long fully realizes that you might never get this opportunity again, right? It's his first time making it to a semifinals. Now he's here in the World's Finals. He wants to take hold of that opportunity to make sure that he has no regrets, right? Because looking over at a player like Bjergsen, you know, people might say, why is he talking about Bjergsen? He's talking about Bjergsen because Bjergsen has been around forever also, right? And he kind of missed that opportunity, and he doesn't want that to happen to himself. And we also saw, you know, Carson in tears as he was exiting the stage. It's that same feeling that all of these guys have and can relate to, where you're at the top of your craft for so many years and you're chasing this dream, and it feels like for him it's now within reach.
Yeah, I mean, everybody gets touched with that same news. Even waking up in the morning, that news was huge. I don't know if anyone's a UFC fan, but hearing from Khabib, like performers at the top of their game, hearing and seeing someone take a step back like that, you see yourself in them, and you don't want to step down without getting that big accomplishment, and it means the world to them being in the finals and not losing this opportunity. So for Sword Art, being in the finals versus Damwon, I know people all think that the chip's all against them. He wants to make the best use of that time and bust the ass off, put as much effort as you can to be able to get it.
Lyric, he's the closest he's ever been.
Yeah, and it actually really blows my mind coming from someone who saw his career firsthand as I coached in the LMS, started in season 3, so he's been here a long time, actually attended Worlds all the way back then, stayed in LMS longer than he could have. You think Carsa went to LPL in 2018. Sword Art really wanted to bring the Flash Wolves to Worlds. And, you know, again, he held on for so long to accomplish that dream, eventually had to realize I couldn't do it in LMS, goes over to LPL, and I don't think there's anyone more deserving, especially, again, with his tenure and with his personality, because this is a player with a lot of, like, charisma and passion.
Yeah, well, if he's going to do it, He's got to do it against the LCK's #1 seed, Azael. They've already gone through one of the tournament favorites. This is one of the others that has been most talked about. Let's preview this series. Suning, Damwon Gaming.
I mean, Damwon just looks like such a behemoth. They have felt unstoppable. They have not really felt challenged at all throughout the entire World Championship. You know, they've only dropped 2 games on their way to the World Finals. One was after they had already locked first place to JDG, you know, in that group stage. And then they had that one kind of blip on the radar against G2, where G2, you know, did get that 1-3-1 style, was able to play side lanes and able to take them down. But besides that, they cruised through G2, they cruised through DRX. They have been so stalwart, and it is really hard when you don't have any footage of them losing games to really kind of formulate a plan and to say, all right, well, what is the weakness you attack, right? It's just so difficult because they haven't really shown any besides maybe playing too slowly. You know, maybe you're going to try to scrap it up with them or try to emulate what G2 did in playing side lanes, but these are very hard things to do.
Yeah, and what you just saw on your screen right here is, I think, one of their biggest attributes as a team. Like, the series that we saw was very scrappy. The team that had the vision advantage tend to throw it away for what would be like a solo play. Damwon do not do that. When they have an advantage and when they have firm ground and fog of war advantage, they play patiently, and then they will try and find the setup to punish. They're such a smart, well-calculated team. And on top of the fact, look at him!
Oh, and they can meme with the best of them.
The most savage PM I've ever seen.
I love it. I love it so much. Lyric, what's your opinion here on this series and Damwon particularly?
Damwon really scares me because they kind of came in and were everything I expected JDG to be, but even more like tempered and more patient. The way I like to describe Damwon is that they're truly a team that doesn't do anything without purpose. Like, everything they do, it always leads to either them stealing a camp, taking a buff, taking dragon, you know, getting vision. This team is just so disciplined that it goes back to what Azael was saying. I don't know where you attack them on the map. I think Ghost has been looking absolutely insane. Ghost and Barrel, that they were supposed to be the weak side of this team, but they've been looking absolutely insane in that 2v2. Like, man, Damwon, their flashbacks, you know, like the Samsung Whites, the SKTs of those old days. It's gonna be rough for Suning. I'm at a loss for words.
I think the one thing you're kind of holding on to if you are, you know, a Suning fan is that maybe the other side of the bracket was just a lot weaker, right? Maybe Damwon didn't look pushed because the opponents weren't as strong, right? And I think people like may take some offense to that, but I definitely think it's fair to say that Damwon was massively stronger than all the other LCK teams, both regionally and at Worlds. I think that is for sure true. I think that G2, you know, had a strong tournament, but I think that G2 last year was a much stronger team comparatively than they were this year, right? And I think that's fair to say also. So, you know, that is kind of doing some of that, you know, I don't know, you're like carrying over results, but I think that's kind of the hope is that, all right, well, Suning had tougher competition. They had to beat G2 in groups and JDG in quarters and top in semis. And maybe that is kind of them being forged in the fires of competition here and going to be able to come out, you know, at a higher level than what Damwon has faced thus far.
Rez?
I feel like I'm in a car that doesn't have wheels to it, that's just accelerating forwards, doesn't have brakes, and all.
How's it accelerating with no wheels?
It's a ghost car. All I'm asking for, all I have been begging for, is a non-3-0 final, and the car is just heading towards the 3-0 cliff. I just want it to stop.
You don't
I want it to
Suning
turn.
takes a game?
Not a game.
Whoa.
It's not a game, and that's damning.
So then here would be my case. My case is
What?
that has been the sentiment that so many people have shared about this team already throughout this tournament, and they have constantly surprised. And so I think already there's a whole lot of buildup for what Damwon is, and no doubt they are a phenomenal team. No doubt they have crushed their competition up to this point. But I think you cannot count out a Suning that has surprised us all tournament long, Lyric.
Yeah, and one thing I love about Suning is not only like their adaptation in drafts from game to game, but they're one of the only teams that when it comes to mid-game, I've seen can play around like all 3 lane setups. They can 1-3-1, they can play around 2 lanes with a pick comp. They did today with the Ornn where you just force 5-man mid. Like, they have so many different tools to win games. They can play out any sort of team composition, and that is a place where I feel like Damwon haven't really been pushed. You know, G2, I don't want to say play a one-dimensional way because G2 is very creative, but it's like you know how G2 is going to play. They knew how DRX was going to play. They already played them in the Korean final. So I definitely feel like this will be a new challenge for Damwon that they haven't had to face yet.
I think this kind of reminds me of last year's Worlds, where FPX did surprise the favorite in G2 because of the early game aspect that they had, right? That one thing that I underestimated was the fact that they just had a stomping early game that they could really turn, like that they can snowball. In this case, Damwon hasn't been challenged in the early game.
Damwon won in 19 minutes, by the way, in that last game. So their early game was pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pretty good. They have not been challenged. And that's the one thing that I'm really hoping for, is that at least for the first 10 minutes of the game, that Suning can really be able to pick up an advantage, at least through their jungle in SOFM and Huanfeng in their bot side. Like, if they can concoct early game advantages through level 1s, I don't give a damn. Just start throwing stuff at them, right? Across the aisle. I want to see that because Damwon needs to be put in a position where they have to claw back an advantage.
Yeah, in no way am I trying to suggest that Suning is the favorite going into the finals. In fact, I do have Damwon picked as my favorite to win the finals within my pick'ems.
Me too.
And talking about those pick'ems, yeah, big brains over here with his only 2 choices. Okay, with the finals matchup determined, we have one more chance to predict the outcome in Worlds Pick'em, powered by Alienware. Head on over to lolesports.com/pick'em to make your guess. In addition to the usual prize of every ultimate skin, those who can still manage a perfect pick will take home an exclusive Alienware Aurora battle station. The Suning upset broke over 180 perfect pick'ems, and now only 12 remain. Only 12.
I'm one of the 12 for sure.
No, you're not.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to verify, but
nobody fact check that, right?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Mine have got to be perfect.
I wish you the best of luck for all those of you who are still in the running.
Thanks,
for the
Dash.
rest of us, it's all about the bragging rights and getting points for those precious Poro icons. Be sure to lock those votes in starting today at 4 p.m. Pacific. 12 people have managed perfect pick'ems. That's fascinating. to
Only
me.
11 others. Wow.
Yeah.
It's really
Do you have like a club meeting? Do you guys meet regularly, Azale, the perfect pick'em crew?
Yeah, we'll have
literal
walkie-talkies.
other world champions.
Old school. Pop up on the walkie-talkie, have a little chat about how it feels. It's pretty good.
My goodness. I do think one final thing we should reference here, Lyric, is that we are on home soil for the LPL in looking to defend the world title. But you're looking at the favorite again being the team other than the LPL team. So just give me a sense, regionally, what the expectation is there for the LPL to continue dominance while the LCK is looking to take it back after a number of years of being outside the spotlight.
I'll say this is probably the year where fans will be most forgiving. I don't think any LPL fans expected Suning to be in this position. It's going to be amazing for them to see, again, all the rookies, all the homegrown talent on this team. But as long as Suning put up a fight, I think fans go home happy. But of course, like you said, it is here in China. We need to go home. Why am I saying we? I'm just an English caster. Suning need to bring home the trophy.
There it is. Before we call it a day, let's jump into our world's honors for the day, where we give a Feels Good award to those that deserve it. Raz, I'm kicking it over to you.
All right. Before I move on to my honors, of the 12, which one actually had Suning winning? Dash, I'm going to put you on the spot. You don't have that information, I'm assuming.
What do you mean? How many of 12 have she?
Which one has Suning winning?
Correct up to this point. Yeah, up to this point.
No, but like Suning winning Worlds, I mean. That's my main point.
Right, you have the option. You have the option to change.
Oh, okay. Hot damn.
Once that.
Anyways, I'm just going to go.
Part of the 12.
Yeah, no, Raz gave up a long time ago, clearly, when he got something wrong in the quarterfinals.
I'm a loser. It happens. All right. I'm going to go straight to my honor. SOFM, I'm going to give that guy his respect. He had an insane tournament long. I've had him as my top 3 jungler alongside Cannon and, of course, Selfmade from Fnatic. I thought performed really well up until his quarterfinals. And so I think SOFM in this series, of course, being able to get player of the series, has had an insane performance, is able to actually secure an advantage. And even in his J4 game, basically won his top laner of the game in the first 4 minutes. It's insane to be able to see the journey that he's had up until this point, but he's really taking the opportunity and he's running home with it.
SOFM stepping up in a big way. Azael, how about you? Where are you throwing your honors?
For me, it was Bin, because I think Bin was able to defy some of my expectations coming into the series. I didn't think he would hold up against 369, and to be honest, he was the much better player. You know, I didn't think that they would be able to make the most of the advantages, even once we were in those games, like the Wukong game where he's way ahead, but top have the advantage in mid and bot. I still didn't think they would be able to execute, but they found the way to do it. So I do think Bin is really deserving of a lot of credit for the growth he has shown from the LPL to the playoffs and now to the World Finals.
Well, last but certainly not least, Lyric, who are you giving an honors to?
Look, I got to give mine to a man who's cut from a different cloth in flashes for his jungle in the final game. Goes to Huanfeng. Had a pretty good series, right? Great team fighting. We saw those damage numbers coming out. We talked about in semifinals, they did not do well against Jackie Love Nyanja, but this game they were finding those early kills in lane. And just seeing his journey from series to series has been absolutely amazing. We said coming out of groups, Jackie Love was the best AD carry at this tournament, and Huanfeng is now the one who shut him down.
I'm just asking for another Jin flank in the best of fine finals. That's all I want. A reprisal of the enemy-based Jin flank. Huanfeng has been an absolute treat to watch all tournament long, so I second that honors there. That is going to do it for us here. So for myself, the casters, the remote broadcast crews from all around the world, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy a look back at the semifinals with our Axe highlights, and we'll see you next week for the grand finals of Worlds 2020.
Hello and welcome. The semifinal matchup between Damwon Gaming and G2 Esports. Canyon still dashing in. He wants a little bit more. Going in on the Brooks. Look at that damage. Canyon taking names left and right. Damwon Gaming sweeping G2 off the map. To go forward is going to get dunked right back down, but is pretty tanky at this stage of the game. Ghost going to try to finish the job, though, because this is massive. They've taken the Baron. They can turn right to Soul. This is everything for G2. The TP now coming in, but it might be too little too late. He can't cancel that one. Showmaker on the way in. He takes Leon. Oh, there's a potential here for a massive turn, but it looks like it might not matter because the Zenith Blade connects. Caps is on the way in. He tries to get it. Showmaker trying to turn it right back around. That's the shutdown onto Caps, but it is enough. No, G2 stands strong. Big Ezreal damage. Showmaker all alone means he takes the full brunt of that assault, and now they're trying for the follow-up. Yanko sleeping forward, and that's going to be it. Showmaker just in the midst of the meat grinder. G2 now pressing forward.
Very nice. It was a slow push. They're now looking to repeat dive on Ghost.
Going to go in. Mickey can block a little bit of damage, but does he have the mana to actually block anything? Mickey is going to get traded back. Minion's going to finish the job. That's a double kill for the Ashe. Absolutely blasted here in the exchange. Does not block all the damage. Kindred now coming in. Mickey's pretty much going to have to re-engage to save his teammates, and that's now Ghost on a rampage.
Own trap. Looks like they're going to catch G2.
Looking out, Barrel trying to find a priority target to stun. Perks for now untouched. The rest of the team now leaping out. Caps trying to jump back in, but how much damage can he actually get done on the backside of this team fight? One getting taken down. That's Mickey out of the fight. Wonder stepping forward. Caps in the middle of everybody. Curtain call, but who's actually going to go down? Caps running for the hills. Shuriken flip takes him out to safety, but the flash in, the point blank shot from Canyon to finish the job. The polymorph as well. Wonder going to get taken down. G2 on the cusp of elimination as Damwon Gaming are going to take their time on this finish. One more death for Mickey X. 3-9-4 as Damwon Gaming move to match point. There's a lot of questions coming to this series. Damwon Gaming, they proved themselves in groups. We'll hold that thought because Wonder now in trouble. Pulled back and taken down. That's going to be one tower. Damwon Gaming could look to force a second one here. The delayed snare now coming out. Caps off to the side, but that's going to be the next tower. Leaping forward. Yanko's taken out. Caps off to the side, but the team can just turn and collapse. Mickey and Perks in no position to contest. Caps will just blast gun out to safety, but they're just going to break the inhibitor. It's 18 minutes into the game. G2
they're going to end the game.
Getting taken out. 18 minutes and 30 seconds, and this is not the way that Europe expected it to go. The greatest team Europe has ever produced falling flat here in Game 4. They look to G2. They take their time with it, but they sweep aside the LEC, and for the first time in 3 years, the LCK will advance to the World Final. They're here to fight, and next weekend, they will be here to take a shot at hoisting the Summoners Cup.
And Carson down to 800. In comes Bin for the knockup. Doug puts him away. Looks for the re-engage on the backline. They've shut down Jackie Love. Bin doing the heavy lifting. Can he do the rest? He puts the team into it. Knight flashed the way to the wrong side of the map. Knight going for the kill. Huanfeng, okay, gonna burn the ulti quickly for health, but now Karsa gets the kick flash backwards. No way out, finds it slow. They might get more. Sword Art does have flash if he needs it, burns it here, but Knight is still in the chase. They're gonna have more damage. The Q comes through, and it's gonna finally get picked up. Knight gonna find the kill. Can they get the damage? No one else is on the base. It is just a 3v3. Karsa drops. It's Karsa running away, but Knight is already gone, and this could be enough. Huanfeng tries to take down 369 and does so. Karsa is gone as well. The hopes of a nation rest with Suning. You beat everyone else. You've got one test left.